Again, I am Pam Kingsley. I am chair of the Town of Poughkeepsie Conservation Advisory Commission, and I welcome you to this month's version of our It Takes a Town speaker series, where we look at local issues that impact our environment. And I am going to hand this off to Lorraine Mirabella, who is going to introduce tonight's speakers.
Good evening. We are happy to have with us as the main speaker, Danielle Salisbury, who's an environment and energy resource educator at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Dutchess County. With her is Colin Atkins, who spoke previously for us, and he's available, but Danielle is our main speaker tonight. They're both environment and energy resource educators and can answer your questions, if any, later on. So thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having us here. I did prepare a PowerPoint presentation. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. As Lorraine mentioned, my name is Danielle Salisbury. I'm here with my colleague, Colin Atkins. And I'm going to give the presentation about solar energy options. Colin's here to help answer questions as well, since solar is a broad topic and there's a lot to it. And here you'll see on the screen my information, Colin's information, and we actually have a third colleague who does energy work more on the other side of the bridge, and that is Sean Welsh, who is based out of Sullivan County. And all three of us are community energy advisors. So maybe some of you, this may seem a brief overview from when Colin gave his presentation back in January. But Colin and I are community energy advisors, which means we give free energy education and advising for the entire Mid-Hudson region, along with our colleague, Sean Welsh, for residents and small businesses. And we tend to focus on households with limited income, but we are available for everybody to come to us, and we can help advise them on any energy issue. And there's just an up close of the 7 counties we cover. So while I am here to present about solar energy, I did want to mention that the first step when you're thinking about energy and a green and cozy home is about energy efficiency, which my colleague Colin talked about back in January, and renewable heat. These are things that you'll have to really go hand in hand with solar energy and renewable energy, but a really good flow, really good way to think about it is to focus on having your home be energy efficient first, and having that have renewable heat, and then go solar. And as I go through this presentation, you'll kind of get an idea of why that might be. So solar energy, we've been hearing about it for a very long time. Back in the day, to go solar, you had to have a sunny roof, you had to own your own home, and you had to have deep pockets. It was pretty expensive. That has actually changed quite a bit recently. Now, if you want to go solar, you can have a house that's totally shaded. Solar is for renters too, and it actually isn't expensive, and you can actually save money if you decide to go solar. So in today's presentation, we're going to talk about why go solar, how does solar energy work, and then the 3 main ways that people can go solar, whether they own a home or whether they rent. So starting with why go solar. So this is a graphic from the National Renewable Energy Lab. The red is where the most sun is available in the United States, and the blue and purple is where the sun is least available. And you can see here we have not only the United States, we've got Alaska and Hawaii down here, but we have Spain and Germany as well. And you'll notice that Germany is that blue to purple color, where I said solar is, the solar resource itself is less prevalent. However, Germany has much more solar energy powering their grid than we do. So it's very interesting to take a look at when people say, you know, well, we live in New York, it's not always sunny like it is in California. How much can we really take advantage of solar? Well, we can. So if you see New York up here is green color, which is in this moderate range. And that is, pretty much right smack dab in the middle. And if we compare ourselves to someplace like Germany, which has actually focused a lot on renewable energy, specifically solar, we have the capacity to do a lot better than we are. And when I talk about solar energy, I am talking about solar electric, which is like solar photovoltaic or PV. Sometimes you'll hear solar PV, which is just, where converting sunlight into electricity. There's another type of solar energy, which is solar thermal, which is using the heat from the sun to heat something up. But today we're actually just going to focus on the solar photovoltaic component. And if you hear some jingling in the background, it's because my dog is going a little crazy. So hopefully she won't get too carried away. So why go solar? Because we can. We have the capability to do so. And of course, it's abundant. It's going to be abundant for at least 5 billion years. And actually 1 hour of sunlight on Earth exceeds all electricity that humans use in 1 year. So we have this vast resource, renewable resource that we can take advantage of. And I know many of you already know the reasons of why I go solar, right? We're not burning fossil fuels. We're not releasing dangerous emissions. And as one of my colleagues says, we don't have to worry about solar spills as we do with oil spills. A solar spill is just a nice day. So other reasons that may not come to mind right when you think why go solar are sometimes it can actually lower your energy bill. And that is whether you put solar panels on your house or you go a different route as community solar, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then another great reason that I really enjoy about promoting solar is that, especially now, you can really support local energy when you go solar. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the components of a solar photovoltaic system. We're not really going to get in depth about this too much. We don't have time. But I did just want to highlight kind of the basics. The first of which, specifically talking, is solar panels. This diagram that we see right here is solar panels on a house, of course. We will talk about solar panels elsewhere. But the solar panels themselves are made with silicon, which is used as a semiconductor. So when the light hits it, it excites an electron, and then multiple electrons, they get excited and form a current that is used to power our electronics. And actually the efficiency of these solar panels has increased over time, of course. Back in 1954 was the first modern solar cell, and it was about 5% efficient, meaning it captured about 5% of the sun's energy. Today, panels are generally 15 to 20% efficient, and can have record efficiencies all the way in the upper 20s, which is pretty great, seeing how far we've come. Talking a little bit about the power output, that's per panel. So one of these squares is a panel. Per panel, it's about 200 to 300 watts per panel is the output. And then when we put several solar panels together, as you see in this picture, it's called a solar array. And that's how we can get enough solar energy to power a house, for example. So for example, when a contractor is choosing the number of solar panels to put up, or the number of solar panels that it might take to power your house, they typically choose enough panels to cover 100% of that home, or a business, perhaps if we're talking businesses, to cover 100% of that energy use, or as close to it. So just to give an example, a home that uses maybe 500 to 600 kilowatt hours per month would likely need about 25 panels. And if you multiply 25 panels times 250 watts, that's like a little over 6,000 watts, or a little over 6 kilowatts. And then when turned into kilowatt hours, it's close to 7,000 kilowatt hours per year. And the cost for that has decreased, of course, over the years. We know the technology has gotten better, and the cost that they actually measure it as cost per watt when installed for residential use was back in 2000, it was $10 per watt. And now it's approximately $4 per watt in 2020. And this is over average over the entire United States. And in New York State, it can be as low as $2.74 per watt. In a campaign, it can get as cheap as that. One of the notes here, though, is specifically for residential solar. It does need to be, the panels do need to be oriented south with no shading. The meter side, so we have the solar panels, but how does that get the energy to a useful place for us? There is an inverter. So because the electricity is produced in the panels as direct current, and the appliances we use in our house use alternating current. So there's an inverter that is either on the side of the house, as you can see down here, this box on the side of the house, or it can be located as microinverters on the panels, but it's an inverter that changes that direct current to alternating current. So our appliances can then use it. The meter, as you can see, is also a little box on the house. That counts how much the solar panels themselves are producing. It tracks how much energy you are using, how much energy you send back to the grid, and how much energy you're receiving from the grid. So up here is the utility grid. Most people who have solar panels are still plugged into the grid, so they can receive energy when there's no sun. And also, so on days that the solar panels are creating more energy that they can use, they can sell that back to the grid. And that comes into play with net metering. I'm sure some of you heard of net metering. And so you can measure the amount of energy that you are sending back into the grid. And that enables you to bank credits. So you can actually have credits on your account, and those credits can come back to you in the winter months, maybe when the panels are not producing as much. So I've kind of alluded to this. There are 3 main ways to go solar, one of which I've kind of talked a little bit about already, residential solar installation, but there are also 2 different kinds of community solar options as well. Community solar purchase and community solar subscription. And we're going to get into each of these in a little bit more detail, so you can kind of see how they are similar and different and the pros and cons of each. So for on-site residential solar, this is, when you put the panels right on the house or on your property. It could be on your garage, it could be on your ground, on your land, that is supposed to offset your electricity use in your home. And some of the pros for this are that it's a direct and visual reminder, and you're able to monitor this yourself, like I said, with that meter on the house. There are significant incentives that can cover approximately 60% of the cost of putting solar panels on your home or on your land, and that is coming from NYSERDA rebates, state tax credits, federal tax credits. All of that together can cover approximately 60% of your costs. And we'll go through, I have an example to kind of show you a little bit of how that works. And it also, another pro is that it does increase the value of your home. One of some of the cons are renters can't do this, unfortunately. It's not for shady roofs. You can only claim the tax credits if you have a liability, and some people have roofing concerns. But the pros typically tend to outweigh the cons, depending on where you're coming from and what you're looking at. An example of an example of somebody, how a cost can break down, looking at all of the rebates and the tax incentives. This is a story of one of our colleagues in Tompkins County. They do energy work there as well. And they've let us borrow their case study here. They assisted a woman named Gail who lives in Newfield, New York. She wanted to put solar panels on her property to power her home, and she ended up putting in 16 panels that produce about 5.44 kilowatts. So the total cost of the project was almost $16,000, which ended up being about a little less than $3 per watt. She was able to get a little over $4,000 of an ISERTA rebate. And then after that, she was able to get about $3,000 of a New York State tax credit, and then almost $3,500 in federal tax credits. And so the final cost was that she had to pay was $5,229. She was able to put $1,000 down and finance the rest at 4.9%. And so her monthly payments, she made monthly payments of $46 over the course of 10 years, which was less than her monthly electricity bill used to be. It used to be around $52.50. So she ended up saving, for those first 10 years, she ended up saving approximately, almost $7 a month. And then after 10 years, that electricity is free. And what's great about this is that the panels are guaranteed for at least 25 years. So after those first 10 years of paying off the rest of her panels, the next 15 years is free electricity. So it really, really pays off. There's a huge cost benefit to doing something this way. If you're able, again, you have to be a homeowner, and you have to have your property has to be right for the solar panels. So another way to go solar is through community solar. And community solar is where they have, instead of putting it on your own property or on your own roof, there are farms nearby that are called solar farms. And they have just vast arrays of panels. And there are different ways that you can get energy from a project like this. What I did want to draw attention to was there's a map right here of New York State, and all of these little sunshine circles are solar farms. This is taken from an ISERTA page, and I'll actually, right now I'm going to try to, so this is taken from an ISERTA page, and I can actually put this in the chat if anybody would like, if I can find the chat. Okay, I found the chat. You can actually put in your utility company. So we'll go with Central Hudson, that's Poughkeepsie. And it comes up with a list of different community solar generators. And it shows you the different farms and where they are. And so you can look through the different providers and do your own research and determine which might be right for you. And that might make a little bit more sense after I get back to the PowerPoint here. So I'm going to go through the two different options of community solar purchase and subscription. And in subscription, there's actually a bonus option for people with limited income that we're going to talk about as well. So the second way to go solar is through community solar purchase. As you can see through this diagram, the way it works is you actually purchase panels in a local solar array. So this is a solar farm near you, and you purchase a set of panels that are yours to use. And there are different pros and cons to doing it this way as opposed to a subscription model, which I'll talk about in a minute. But as you can see in the large array, some of these panels are going to be your neighbors. Some of these panels are going to be yours. Perhaps some of these belong to a small business. But you purchase them and they are yours. You just don't have to house them on your house or on your property. So this option can work for renters and people who have shady homes where putting it on your actual property will not work. There's more flexibility in this option because you have ownership of these panels and there's a monitoring system involved with it, but you yourself, but they are not on your property. They're not on your roof. You don't have to worry about any of, if people have roofing concerns. And if you can move in the region and still keep those panels and they will still contribute to your energy consumption, or if you decide you can sell them at any point, whether you move or you just decide you don't want them anymore. And then another pro is that incentives cover approximately 30% of the cost. So that is through NYSERDA rebates and a federal tax credit. There is no state tax credit for this one. So the cons are there are fewer incentives as opposed to buying them outright and putting them on your house. As you noticed with that first residential installment, we had about 60% of the cost was covered by incentives, and now only about 30% of the cost is. There is a higher upfront cost and reduced savings. You don't end up saving as much as you would as if you purchased them outright and put them on your home. And there is the potential for extra fees. For example, taking care of the solar panels, mowing around them, any upkeep that they may need. There may be some extra fees associated with that. And those are all things that you would have to, when you go into a contract with a community solar company, those are all things that you would want to look at when going into a contract with one of these companies. For the third option, which is a community solar subscription, this is where you don't actually purchase the solar panels, but you do purchase a subscription to solar panels on a local solar farm. And just like a subscription, it's complicated. The pros are there are no upfront costs or fees. There's generally not a long-term commitment, and you can adjust your subscription as you go. It works for anyone with a utility bill. So anyone who pays like a Central Hudson bill, or even in other regions, different utility bills. It works with budget billing. It's flexible in the fact that nothing is installed on your property and you don't own anything, so it's not complicated like that. And it is not an ESCO. And I'll explain the details in a minute of exactly how the subscription works. But some of the cons are there is a second bill, which can get complicated, and I'm about to describe that right now. But that actually is moving in the direction of going away, where you won't have a second bill and everything will be wrapped up in one bill, making it just a little bit easier. Another one of the cons is there are just so many different community solar companies, and choosing one can seem overwhelming at times. So that's kind of a con. How do you figure out which solar company is right for you? And so that's definitely something to consider. So the way community solar works is you subscribe to solar panels in a local solar community farm. You get two bills every month. You get one bill from the utility, so that in this case for Poughkeepsie, that's Central Hudson. So you get your utility bill with a subscription to solar. So for example, this is just an example bill, obviously. Your total usage is 500 kilowatt hours. You always have this basic service charge, which is about $15. Then say, for example, you had a $25 delivery charge, $25 supply charge, making your total bill $65. When you have a solar subscription, then you will see on your bill a subscription credit. In this case, we're saying it's $50. So your utility bill will subtract that solar subscription credit, and the amount that's due will be $15 to Central Hudson. Then you will receive a second bill from the solar company, and they will bill you for the subscription credit, which was that $50 you saw on your utility bill. And then you get a 10% discount off of that. So you only have to pay the solar subscription company $45. Again, these are all hypothetical numbers. It's not going to be that exact with every bill. Just to show you how it works. And in this case, the total savings would be $5. So the way this program works is they say you will save 5 to 10% of your utility bill every month. Here's an example of a real life bill. These two, sorry, my voice keeps cracking. These two bills do not correspond to each other, but this is an example. On the left, you see somebody who offered up their utility bill, and you can see here they have a CDG generation credit. That's where their credit shows up in the electric delivery charges and supply charges. You'll see that a credit, so of negative. And their total electricity cost for that month was only $16. That's from their utility bill. This is, again, these two do not correlate, but this is an example of on the right is an example of a community solar bill that you would get from the community solar company. It would say the amount of credits you got and the discount. It shows a little bit of a discount, and then the amount that you would actually pay. So you do end up saving money. It's just not as drastic as if you put solar panels on your house, for example. But it's another way to support solar energy and renewable energy in the community. And this is where I'm going to segue into the Town of Poughkeepsie Solar for All campaign. I forgot the word I want to use, but so one type of community solar is for people with limited income, and that is Solar for All. It's a state program by New York State called Solar for All, and I actually have a few slides prepared about that specific program. So Solar for All is supported by New York Sun, and it is a state administered program that provides utility bill assistance to eligible New Yorkers. So they can save money through a free community solar subscription. And this is for renters or homeowners, and it's very similar to HEAP, where credits appear on the electric utility bill. And again, this is for people with limited income, which may not be you directly, but perhaps you may know somebody who could benefit from this specific program. So again, here's an example of the credits showing up on your bill. So somebody who is in the Solar for All program, they see those monthly credits on their electric bills from the solar energy, but they don't receive that other bill from the community solar subscription. So as I mentioned, what I was just showing you prior to this was somebody with a non-limited income would join community solar. They would get their utility bill and they would get the community solar bill as well. People who are limited, who have a limited income and can sign up for the Solar for All program, just get their utility bill as always, but it does show up. There is a little bit of a credit on their bill, and they end up saving about $5 to $15 a month. There's no change to the utility provider, service, or supplier. There's no upfront costs, fees, or payments to participate. There's no contract to sign. And it does not affect any existing benefits that you have, and you can cancel at any time. And it works just as before, as I mentioned about community solar, there's panels installed at a local community site that, I apologize, that energy is fed into the grid. And you still get your energy from the utility with no need to install panels on your house at all or on your property. And you receive the credits on your electricity bill at no extra cost. And here's just an example of the Solar for All projects that are in the region. You can see down here in our region, there's the Underhill project, which I believe is actually in Poughkeepsie. The Underhill Farm. This is how big it's almost a 3 megawatt solar project in Poughkeepsie. And there is a portion of that is reserved strictly for the Solar for All program. So anybody who wants to join that, they have kind of these panels reserved for them. And signing up is easy. there's just, you have to make sure you're eligible. As I mentioned, it's for limited, people with a limited income. For example, people who receive HEAP, SNAP, if you've already received Empower, TANF, any other utility assistance program, that means you are eligible. And signing up is easy. You can either go through me or Colin if you need help, but you can do it all online or in a paper application. So the reason I'm plugging this specific program in particular, as I mentioned, the town of Poughkeepsie is actually doing a Solar for All campaign. So with the Climate Smart Communities Task Force has partnered with Cornell Cooperative Extension to really promote this program in the community. And our goal is to try to reach 25 participants, hopefully by the end of next month. That's our goal. And so we're trying to get the word out about this as an accessible form of community solar, because we want these renewable energy outlets to be available to everybody and be accessible to everybody. So this is one way that we're trying to do that, and the town is trying to really push this. So I am the point of contact for that campaign for the town of Poughkeepsie, specifically for anybody interested in doing Solar for All. I speak Spanish as well, so I can help people who may have trouble speaking English, where Spanish is their primary language. And so if anybody has any questions, you think you might be applicable for this program, you might know somebody who might be, I am the person to contact. Susan has been helping me tremendously with this as well, and as well as a few, Anne from the town board. And we're really trying to push this program out to make sure that renewable energy is accessible for all. So the next steps are, please reach out and chat with us. Colin is here as well as myself. We're both knowledgeable about different programs that people can get into. As I'm sure he mentioned back in January, there's not only, solar programs and renewable energy information out there, but there's energy efficiency programs, programs to get energy audits done on your home. And if you're just hearing that word energy audit for the first time today, you can reach out to one of us and we can talk to you more about that. It's basically just getting somebody to come to your house and see where energy is being wasted in your home and how you can upgrade your home to be more energy efficient, which, if you remember from the beginning of the presentation, I said that's a really good first step. And the reason I said that it's a really good first step is because, especially if you're going to put solar panels on your home or in your property, the amount of energy you use in your home will dictate how many solar panels you're going to have to put on your roof or on your property, or how many panels you're going to have to use in a community solar farm. So if you can reduce your amount of energy that you use, either if you're doing those home energy upgrades, renewable heating, which are really efficient nowadays. If you can reduce your energy consumption and bring your energy bill down even before thinking about renewable energy options, then you can save yourself even more money. So please talk with Colin and myself to see what solar option is best for you. Everybody's situation is different, and there are always a lot of questions, and we're actually about to get into the Q&A session in a minute. But we typically recommend, if you are going to go on a community solar adventure, or even if you're just going to put panels on your house, definitely get quotes, more than one, from different local contractors. Talk with the different companies, see which ones you like best. And we can help you with questions that you may want to ask those companies to see which companies may be the best fit for you. Because as I mentioned, there are a lot of different solar companies out there with a lot of different offers, and each offer is different and it can be confusing. So now we'll take questions for Q&A. Again, my information is on the screen. Colin's information is on the screen. We are both able to assist you. And we also, you can check out other things, other energy options that we can assist you with on our website, midhudsonEnergyChoices.org.
Right. Danielle, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. It was a great presentation. And we have questions already in the chat. So we'll start at the top and work our way down. So the first is from Ilana. It is, what maintenance is necessary for the panels and who's responsible for possible repairs?
This would be different, and Colin, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be different whether you have them on your house or if they're in a community farm. And so on a community farm, usually the solar farm operators are the ones responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep, and that in that situation, it's things like mowing. And I'm not sure what other possible repairs, if anything, breaks on the solar panels. I imagine that would be those kinds of repairs. On the house, I believe it's dependent on what kind of contract you sign. But Colin, I'll let you maybe take the rest of that one.
It all comes down to whatever you sign off on, and whether you're purchasing your panels outright and you're signing on the dotted line, that usually absolves the installer of any maintenance responsibility. So they're passing that on to you as the owner of those panels. If you're entering into a lease situation, say, for example, leasing your roof to a solar company, or you're leasing a set of panels in an array, it all comes down to what's written on that piece of paper and any responsibilities there.
And then we have a second question, which is also from Ilana, which is also, if you need to replace your roof, who would take down the panels and then reinstall them?
Another really good question. Right now, roofers and the solar installers are kind of like two different players. So you would maybe need to get your solar company, the ones that installed it, or another local company to come in and do that part before the roof gets replaced. But I have an inclination that, over time, we're going to see more people who do roofing could enter that space as well, and just take care of that, because that's a little extra dough in their pocket, and that's a little extra convenience for the customer. I could see that happening. That's not really that common right now, but it's still those two different entities currently.
Okay, and then from Dan, for homeowners interested in owning their own array, is there a list of recommended contractors?
Indeed, there is. And in fact, if you want to get the NYSERDA rebates, which are currently about 35 cents off per watt. So when Danielle gave you that kind of New York average of 2.7 whatever, NYSERDA has some additional rebates to bring that down even further. And if you're going to get that rebate, you have to use a participating contractor from one of their lists. So there's a very healthy list of solar installers that serve residential customers, and we always recommend getting multiple quotes, as Danielle said in that presentation.
And Danielle has put the link to that list in the chat. So please go there if you're interested. And
I have two questions.
oh, one more. Let's do one more from the chat, and then I'll throw it over to you, Lorraine. So Rachel is asking, how do you pick a good contractor?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right? We all want confidence that we're going to pick a good contractor, and I believe that the more you can play the role of an informed consumer, an informed customer, that's going to benefit you. Have those conversations well beforehand. That's when you have the most control in the situation, is in the beginning stages, and continue to get quotes. If you're not comfortable with who you're talking to, continue down the list. And then we have, what we do for the energy efficiency side is we give some kind of frequently asked questions or interview questions to help people feel confident in having those conversations and gathering that information. So, developing something like that for searching for solar contractors, I think could be around the corner here soon too.
Great, thank you. Lorraine?
Yeah, is there any significant difference in the solar farms except for the amount of the rebate they offer to sign up?
So if I understand the question correctly, Lorraine, you're kind of talking about these bigger community solar entities. Is there any difference in the arrays themselves or the companies?
Well,
Or either?
people, they solicit your business, you get mailings. How does one choose which solar farm? I mean, obviously they have to be uh, joined to your electric company. But other than that, they're all about equal in terms of they're doing the same function, and they offer some rebates, but the savings are about the same at all of them.
That's actually a really good question, Lorraine. I'm happy to take that one too. And then Danielle, if there's anything I miss, please jump in. The first thing one would want to ask, and especially because you bring up the solicitations and the phone calls or the mailings are crazy. You saw that map in Danielle showed, and how many of those folks are in our region. The first thing you want to find out is this actually a community solar company, or is this an ESCO? An ESCO is abbreviation for energy service company. ESCOs do have a very similar business model, but they are buying and selling credits on such a massive scale, and they do not typically guarantee any savings. So in those types of contracts that you're signing, you are agreeing to a particular price for electricity, and a lot of them bill themselves as 100% renewable, and you're gonna you support local, but they're not actually saying they're community solar, but they use a lot of the same jargon. So two ways to figure out if they're an ESCO or if it's community solar. One, ask them if they can guarantee their savings. And two, ask them where exactly are the solar credits being produced? Where am I being signed up? And if they cannot tell you precisely where on a map, that is not a community solar company. When you sign up for community solar, I'm being assigned to such and such a place, and it's in this town, and I could go visit it. I can go wave to my community solar panels if I wanted to. That's a big, big difference. The Public Service Commission has become very critical of certain ESCOs for what they consider predatory practices of offering introductory rates, then changing the rates. That's never going to happen with community solar. So out the gate, you got to figure out if they're an ESCO or if it's community solar. There's a great link from the Public Service Commission called the Power to Choose, and that's a little bit of a comparison tool, and you can just use that to see if the ESCO is on that list, and then you're like, oh, ESCO. Other than that, there's some other good comparison marketplaces for community solar. One of the ones I've used is called Energy Sage. And that one will just help you compare some of the terms that these folks are offering. That's kind of like about the business and kind of the what you sign up for. But beyond that, you may also look into a company's mission, a company's values, and ask, are they a certified benefit corporation, or do they give to charity? Like those are those types of decisions of like, who do I want to actually give my money to, that I think are legitimate and valid, like any other product you would give your money to. You can do your homework about the company themselves too, and make your decision off that.
All right, thank you. My other question is, in the residential solar, Danielle said the pros are the significant rebates from New York State, federal tax credits, etc. But one of the cons was only claim tax credits if have a liability. What does that mean?
So I looked that up a little bit because I was also unfamiliar with that. And one of my colleagues mentioned this to us, and I still didn't fully understand it, but it seemed to be something that was disadvantageous to people with limited income, which was unfortunate. Colin, I don't know if you could speak any more to that.
Yeah, it kind of gets to Alana's first question about who has the responsibility, who has the ownership, and who has maintains that property. That's kind of what it comes down to. Most community solar arrangements, you're acting through a third party. Either, you know, somebody, the town might own that array, and then they're letting you sign up to get your you know, electricity from that, or it's a credit type of arrangement. So it kind of comes down to who owns that. So that's what the you must accept liability for these panels. That is who gets the rebates. And then there's a question of, are they residential, are they non-residential, or are they commercial? It changes what the state's going to give you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have another question from the chat from Ilana, which is, and I think it possibly might be answered by one of the links that were put in there, but what questions should we be asking a potential contractor? Maybe they're like 5 key things, you know, that you want to, you know, establish up front.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had more of a set resource for this, and this is something we're definitely going to hopefully be developing is more of these types of consumer help tools for this part, because we hear it all the time in the energy efficiency stuff. You know, I would say there's some general questions that just, no matter what contractor you're talking to, would be good to ask. It's, you know, what level of experience does your crew have? You know, if there's like a foreman on the project, how long do you stay on the job site is always an important one. Do they just sort of come, get their guys set up, and then they leave for the day, and then they come back and look, or are they there the whole day is a really good question. You know, what types of certifications do they maintain? When was the last time they got that certification? I was trying to get to 5 because Pam mentioned 5. Do they subcontract to anybody for any parts of the job? You kind of might want to know if there's other businesses that are going to be involved. You know, and sometimes you're well within your rights to ask for references. Somebody maybe you know, in your area who has worked with them before. Some businesses will go out of their way to provide those, and I think that's a really good sign if they can.
Also, I think with contractors, you always want to ask about liability insurance as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there might be some laws around that in the permitting stage that they have to have that, but you could ask to what degree is, you know, are things covered under that, but I think it's generally assumed that they have some degree of that.
Yeah, and I think Susan is putting in the chat issues about warranty, about financing, things like that.
Yeah, a lot of the folks use a finance company. You know, like they have a arrangement with a bank and they use a particular finance company. If it's a NYSERDA supported project, meaning if you're getting a NYSERDA rebate, there is financing available through the state's financier too, and they generally offer much lower interest rates than the free market folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Susan has actually an installation on her house, and she's really recommending that you go check out their installations, like get recommendations and go check them out, knock on doors and talk to people, which seems like and also she's bringing up that service after installation, you know, is another issue.
And I would just add on the community solar side of that, I did put a link in the chat. It's a little ways back now. NYSERDA's tips for choosing a community solar project. It doesn't have exact questions you should ask that community solar farm. However, it does have a lot of different points you should look at when deciding which one is best for you, like length of subscription term. Like Colin mentioned before, what are the guaranteed savings? Are the rates fixed? Are they not? Are there any fees associated with cancellation? And it's very much, really pay attention to the contractor signing and read it thoroughly.
Mhm. So I think we've gone through everything in the chat. Are there any additional questions that if everyone wants to flag a hand?
One just popped in from the chat.
Oh, did it? Okay, one last question. Do homeowners need a permit from the town to proceed with the project? That's a good question. And I'm
I would
guessing.
ask
saying it-
Susan.
Yeah, I'm not, Susan, do you know in regard to solar? Are you there, Susan? She was gonna be in and out, so she may be out right
Yeah,
now.
she maybe stepped away.
I think that's a question probably that we have to, it's a very good question, and my guess is that it probably may change from municipality to municipality.
It definitely does, yes.
Yeah,
The
so
answer,
I,
the answer is yes, by the way. This
Oh,
is
there
Mike.
you go,
Sorry,
Mike.
I just.
Oh, there's
yeah,
Mike.
Yep, there is a solar permit through the building department, so.
so if you want to install panels on your home, you need to apply for a permit with Town of Poughkeepsie.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, this was really incredibly informative, and Danielle and Colin, I thank you. We thank you. The CAC thanks you very much. Lorraine, thank you for bringing Danielle and Colin to us. And I say thank you to everyone and have a good evening.